25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You know, life is a mystery, you know, just no matter how. There's no doubt about it. And there are a lot of things we'll disagree on. I don't think anybody disagrees about that. Life is an unbelievable mystery. And when you hear stories of people who've had near-death experiences, then there's some controversy. Some people say, oh, come on, they don't believe it. They do believe it. They want you to embrace it. They don't want you to embrace it. They say it supports their religion. They say it doesn't support their religion. There's all kinds of stories, right?
Yeah.
This past weekend, there was a movie that was apparently the third biggest movie in the nation, and it was called Heaven is for Real, I think.
Yes.
And we interviewed the author of that, the father, actually, of the book, the father of the boy. The father was our guest, and he's the writer of the book, right, that they made the movie from. In that case, it was a child who almost died, had a near-death experience, or some people say actually died. I always figure if you actually died, then you're done.
Yeah.
But you had the death experience, maybe that's a way to say that. Our next guest is C.J. Golden, and from what I understand, C.J. was a skeptic about things such as near-death experiences at one point, but she has written a wonderful book. I want to tell you about it. I'm going to let her tell you about it. It's called Reflections from Beyond. It's in part, by the way, it's a fundraiser for something called Healing Hearts of Hospice of Western Connecticut to continue to help the grieving families in Newtown. Or is it Newton or Newtown, Connecticut? Where that tragic shooting of those children took place. Absolutely heartbreaking story. You know, even if there is life after death, it's still heartbreaking to know that when somebody that young has had their life cut short. It says here that C.J. Golden, in addition to being an accomplished author, is also an actress, a print model, which means she's an ooh la la girl, right? She's a voiceover talent, a speech therapist, and I hope the echo went away. She said off the air, and I know that echo is a problem for us, but I think once we go on the air, it ceases. Reflections from Beyond, sharing a message of hope, peace, and kindness by C.J. Golden. Good morning, C.J. How are you?
Good morning. And at this point, the echo is still there, but that's good. I'll get to hear what I sound like.
Oh, is the echo still there?
Well, actually, you're echoing, and I'm not. So I'm hearing you in stereo, which is wonderful.
You know what it might be? It might be a reflection from beyond. How far away are you?
That could very well be it. It's you both from yet another realm.
Oh, that's
absolutely.
funny. Well, where are you? Where are you, CJ?
I'm in Connecticut. And it is Newtown.
Okay, Newtown. Okay, and I thought it was. Just my notes were wrong. Do you live there?
Pardon?
Do you live in Newtown?
Yes, I live in Newtown.
Oh, wow. And
that's
so
my home. It's a wonderful town. I'm very proud to be part of this community.
Wow. Well, everybody was praying for your community when that tragic, unnecessary, terrible thing happened. Did you know any of the children who died or any of the teachers?
No. People who, I have a very dear friend who is the grandmother of one of the children who did indeed escape. No, but it touches. One doesn't have to know one.
No, and I wasn't. I hope you didn't think I was implying that. I was just curious.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So tell me about. Let's see. The man's name again is the man who you did Tracy LaCroix.
Tracy LaCroix.
All right. Tell me about Tracy.
Well, it's interesting that he lives in Cape Charles, Virginia. My husband is a bike rider, a cyclist, and I was following him along on a trip down the Delmarva Peninsula, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. And because I love the adventure of it, but I'm not much of a cyclist, we ended up at a particular little hotel in Cape Charles that was not one that we had really expected to be at for various and sundry reasons. Met Tracy LaCroix, who was at the time the innkeeper. And Tracy is jovial and open and started speaking with me and telling me his background. Yes, he came from New Hampshire and then had been in Springfield, Massachusetts. And by the way, 11 months before I had met him, 11 months before I was talking to him, it was in Springfield, Massachusetts at Bay State Medical Center that he had died.
Wow.
Yeah.
So at this point, and now, so at this point, you're talking to a stranger, basically, who's who's telling you something that you're finding really interesting. Is there a way to explain to us why it was interesting, especially if you were skeptical about these kinds of claims?
The way he said it, there was a sincerity there. And then he continued very quickly beyond that and said, where do I come from? Where do I live? And I said, Newtown. He said, that's why you were here. The messages that I learned from my near-death experience, the messages I learned, you need to bring back to the people of Newtown. Now, two things here. Number one, he didn't know it as a near-death experience. He knew the term. He knew what he had experienced. He had not put that term near-death experience to his particular journey.
Really?
And number two, there I was, a mere 5 months after our Sandy Hook tragedy, with this information and this message to bring back from this stranger. How? How do I do this? I sat down the next morning, being the writer that I am, with my iPad and typing away, and I interviewed him at depth. And there was, as I said, there was such sincerity in his words that there was something that was pecking at me and saying, this is for real, and this is something, CJ, that you need to explore in more depth.
Oh, wow. What can you tell us? I mean, we don't want to spoil the reading of the book for anybody, but what did he tell you?
Well, he told me that he had indeed seen a white light, had indeed traveled to a spot where he didn't see anyone. He did not see a person. Actually, he told me later he felt quite cheated. There was no singing and no angels and no music. He said, wow, he came back and he felt cheated. But he felt God talking to him and giving him the option to continue on to heaven or to come back to earth. Now, you need to know that during this time, his heart had flatlined for an hour and a half.
Wow.
And for an hour and a half,
wow.
The good doctors, the medical team who I later, of course, interviewed at depth, that medical team saw they felt compelled to continue working on him to get that heart pumping again on its own. And even though there was very little oxygen going to Tracy's brain, he ultimately came back. His heart started pumping, no neurological damage, no brain damage.
Wow.
As the doctors said, it changed their protocol. They will now continue working on people for longer periods of time.
I bet they do. Now, how old was he at the time?
He was 50, I believe.
Okay. And his reason for being there, he had a heart attack? Is that what happened?
He had been in the hospital. He had a stent put in, which is very ordinary, very commonplace nowadays. He had been wheeled back to CCU after a very, very ordinary to the doctors, ordinary heart procedure. And 5 hours later, his heart flatlined. They don't know why.
Okay, so he died. He went and he saw the light, and he had a conversation with God, giving him the option. The option to come back or go ahead into heaven. He chose to come back, thinking about his wife and the pain she would go through should he not come back. But he was told he was coming back to finish his work on earth, and he had no idea what that might have been. Oh, no. Don't you hate
now
that?
He knows.
Don't you hate that? God gives you an assignment, and you're not sure what it is.
Yeah, go back and figure it out, kid. And he's been working on that, but certainly the biggest of all is to bring his message. What he learned is that God is the God of choices. He gives us choices. He helps guide us, but ultimately the choices are our own. He's a God of kindness. And actually, as Tracy says at the end of the book, because I handed over the last chapter to Tracy, you want to go to heaven, you want to achieve this gorgeous place, be kind. And of course, that resonated with me. That is the term that we immediately latched onto here in Newtown. Kindness. Be kind. I knew then, after speaking with Tracy, that I would be back down there again for a more in-depth interview, and this was going to be a book. And that is how I would bring his message to not only Newtown, but to everyone.
And obviously, this is part of that right now. Speaking to the listeners of this radio station in this town, I think the thing that we have our own sets of religious training and religious beliefs and whatever, and quite often, when there's a skeptic, the skeptic will say, well, wait a minute, it sounds like you're a person who, quote unquote, almost died, is just regurgitating religious beliefs. The story of the little boy, though, that was made into a movie, was not the case. Did Tracy have I guess a religious background? Did his religion change as a result of this? What kind of change happened for him?
Tracy is a Christian. And so, of course, he believes in God, he believes in Jesus Christ, but he did not. And this is this is a biggie, and some will take exception to this. He did not see Jesus Christ. He spoke to God. He did not see Christ. He was many of the other books that are written about near-death experiences. And particularly, I have not yet seen the movie Heaven is for Real. But I know the book, and I know that many of these delve into the religious areas. Tracy did not, nor did I write a book that delves into the religious areas. This is a book, Tracy's book is one of comfort, of knowing that those that we know who have passed are in a beautiful, beautiful place. But mostly it's a book that helps us live in this realm on earth right now.
I love that because, I believe that there is life after death, but I also believe there is life before death. Yes. And a lot of times, especially when sometimes you hear about, the suicide bombers, et cetera, that they, for some reason, have this belief that this is worthless. We might as well just do away with it because life does. I passed a church not too long ago, and the marquee on the church said, life begins at death. And I said, because I know the pastor of that church, I said to Rob, and I said, I saw this thing and it bothers me because life happens before death also. And I know what they're saying, that there's maybe a better life or something after death. I don't know. But I know right now, this is where I am right now. I'm in Florida and I'm alive and I'm 59 years old and this is what I have. So why always look forward to something that is supposed to be, that's when life begins? Why can't life be right now? It makes sense to me.
And I'm in total agreement. It's interesting. I was interviewed recently on a Connecticut NBC affiliate, and the interviewer looked at me and said, "Well, so how do you feel about dying now?" And I said, as Tracy said, I'm not afraid. It's a beautiful. Tracy says, I'm not afraid. Heaven is a beautiful place. Why should I be afraid? However, me, C.J. Golden, and Tracy also, I'm having a heck of a good time here. I'm not wishing my life here on earth away, although there is a comfort in knowing and in believing, believing that there's something beautiful waiting for me. Better, I don't know, but something different. And that's a comfort when we have a dear friend recently passed, and there's a comfort knowing that and believing that he's now in a fine place. Writing the book has opened up so many realms for me of believing in all the possibilities, as you had said in your opening, all the possibilities that the universe has for us. Why not believe? If we can't prove it scientifically, let's believe in the very best.
I like the fact that the cover is one of Tracy's photos, and you put in the book the question, where is Tracy in this photo, since it's a reflection? Yes. So why do you think his image didn't show up in the reflection?
We don't know, and it's actually, thank you for bringing that up, that's actually a big part of, that was the socket to me moment. That was the aha, there is no way I'm not writing this man's book. He showed me his photography at the end of our short interview, And then my husband and I continued on to Virginia Beach. One of the photographs that Tracy showed me it was of two blue doors, glass doors, and entrance to a restaurant on a beach. Yes, he had taken it. He was standing in front of the doors. Everything behind him, the beach, the sand, the people were reflected in the doors. Tracy was not.
Wow.
I know I wasn't talking to a ghost. I suspect that it had something to do with the lens he chose, the lighting, the aperture, whatever. But of course, those doors and that photograph became quite a conversation. Now my husband and I are in Virginia Beach. We're walking along the beach. A cold wind blows up. Sand and beach is on our left. We make a quick turn to our right to enter our hotel, except we had passed the hotel. And when we made that quick turn to our right, it's almost as if I was pushed to make that turn. I was staring at those glass doors on the beach that were in Tracy's photograph. That was my...
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Yeah, the coming together of the two of you, there's something pretty profound, or whatever the word would be there. There's something pretty amazing about the fact that you met each other and that you wrote his book. His story wouldn't be heard right now had you not written this book. So
I do believe so. I had asked him, I said, this is a book. Why aren't you write it? He said, I was waiting for the right person to come along. And,
wow.
Because I wrote the book, even though it's Tracy's message, I got in there my message as well as sharing Tracy's, which I totally agree with. We are always given these serendipitous events. The universe is always giving us these challenges, these events, these opportunities, and we all too often. We say, coincidence, not a big deal. We need to listen to these.
CJ, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that your skepticism prior to meeting him is probably not exactly accurate. I'm guessing that you've been open to this all your life.
I would suspect I was. I'm open as I'm getting older. As I'm getting older in years, I'm no longer a print model. Let me tell you. But unless they're looking for very gray hair, but with red in it. I think that I walked the straight and narrow all my life because I felt I needed to. When I started doing research for my first two books. One for women, one for girls, and they deal with Taoism, which is not all that different. It started opening me up to, we are part of the universe. We are following a path.
Yeah.
And little by little, I started to recognize that, there is this part of me that very much believes. And I thank people like Eben Alexander, who wrote Proof of Heaven, and I thank the dad of this little boy who wrote his book, and all the people who are now bringing this to the forefront and letting people know there is a great possibility in everything the universe offers. And it's interesting that when I give a speaking event, I'm asked questions, certainly, but more than anything, people are so anxious and happy and feel comfortable in sharing their spiritual events.
Do you know, I want to compare, if you don't mind, your voice to somebody. And have you ever heard of Esther Hicks? Esther Hicks.
No, I haven't.
No. Esther Hicks is a lady who claims that she channels a group of spirits that manifest themselves through her as one voice, even though she says it's many people communicating through her, and that one voice is called Abraham. She calls the one voice Abraham. So if you speak just like her, so it almost, I don't know what that means exactly, other than the fact that for me personally, and anybody who's probably familiar with Esther hears you speaking, it almost sounds like you would be the kind of a person who would speak about these kind of things that are at a kind of a different level from sea level, whatever you call it, where we are. I mean, you're at a higher level, it sounds like.
I don't know. I thank you for that comparison. Other than the fact that maybe she grew up in Long Island also. West Island.
I don't know.
No, I know. I totally know that. I'm so passionate now about these possibilities and helping people. I'm backtracking here. Reflections from Beyond is almost a near-death experience 101 or introduction to.
Yeah.
Because those who are skeptics might find something they can latch on to. Somebody who totally doesn't believe isn't going to pick up the book, isn't going to read it, isn't going to get anything out of it. And that's okay. But the more I delve into this and the more I meet with people, and yes, I've had mediums. I had a medium come up to me after I spoke at a particularly wonderful it was a book launch here in Newtown, and what she told me about me, and people that have gone before me, the more I hear this, the more I'm passionate about saying, folks, it could be.
It could be. We broadcast from a mall. The radio station is located in a mall, and so therefore there's a big parking lot. And if you go out to the parking lot when people are looking for their cars, you will sometimes hear people say, "Where are we?" And they're not really referring to themselves; they're referring to their car as them. Like, "Where am I? Where am I?
I
can't."
do that.
They don't say, "Where's my car?" They say, "Where am I?"
Nope. I do.
And I've often wondered if it's not the same thing with us. Like, this body that we're driving around is just kind of like driving a car. And eventually when the car breaks down, we get a new car. Maybe when the body breaks down, we get a new body. And if we're dead and we're looking back at how they always show these people floating above the bed in the hospital room?
Yeah.
Well, they're just looking at their car. It's maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we are, this body of ours, and the universe is giving me a message. I'm switching phones because all of a sudden my one phone is going. So here we go onto another phone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that was the universe telling you that, huh?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, CJ. Can you hear us?
Here we go. Good.
Yeah.
I always have a second phone handy just in case. Somebody is, I don't know, either the universe is telling me they don't like what I'm saying, or they like so much that I'm saying that I have to go to another room in the house and spread the energy to another room. So the energy is just moved to another room. And that's what Tracy is saying, and that's what everyone who has a spiritual belief is saying. We are so much more than just our body. I'm reading a book now. A Yale professor of philosophy is trying to disprove the dualist theory, and the dualist theory is that body and soul are two separate things. He's trying very hard to disprove it. I'm not buying it. We are two separate. Body and soul are two separate things. I'm quite convinced of that.
Well, it has to be. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that it would be anything other than that. It just seems like you can cut off your arms and your legs and everything, and you're still here.
Yeah.
We are so close to being out of time. I want to make sure we get the website out so people can buy the book. First of all, it's again called Reflections from Beyond. Is it on Amazon and some of the others?
Absolutely. It's available. If your local bookstore doesn't have it, they can certainly get a copy for you. It's on Amazon.com.
And do you have a website?
And also you can check me out, if I might, at cjgolden.com.
All right, excellent.
Have a very active website, particularly the discussion page where people put down their experiences.
CJ, we've got to go forward. We've got Fox News coming up. Thank you so much for being on the air with us today. Come back.
I'd love to.
All right.
Thank you. Take care.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The president in Japan, the first stop of his 8-day Asia trip. Fox News Radio's Alistair Wanklin is in Tokyo.
President Obama going into dinner talks with Japan's prime minister, and as he did so, he wowed the crowd.
Hey!
On the menu, a meal from the chef featured in a documentary film and regarded by many as the world's best sushi chef. On the agenda, Japan's disputed islands with China and the Free Trade Trans-Pacific Partnership. Our military sending a message to Russia as the crisis in Ukraine continues.
U.S. Army troops are arriving first in Poland, beginning a series of exercises in 4 countries, a move the Pentagon confirms will bolster allies in Russia's backyard.
Russia's aggression in Ukraine has renewed our resolve to strengthening NATO's defense plans and capabilities.
Rear Admiral John Kirby.
Fox Radio's Jared Halpern. Fox News. We report, you decide.